Hi, I'm Cassidy.
And I'm Lindsay.
Welcome to the Meraki podcast. Meraki is a Greek word that means the act of doing something with soul, creativity, or love, to put something of yourself into your work.
This podcast is for fellow photographers to encourage, inspire, and build community in the photography industry
with an ultimate goal to reflect Christ through our words and businesses.
We are inviting you into our weekly coffee dates where we talk all about our hot takes, interview other creatives who inspire us, and share our hearts with you.
Our coffee will be bold, and probably our conversations too. So pour yourself a cup, get cozy, and join us for this week's episode.
Welcome to our second episode of the Meraki podcast. Today, we're inviting you to our coffee date.
I actually had a wedding client gift me a bag of coffee, among other things, like on her wedding day, I showed up.
That's actually so sweet.
How thoughtful is that? Yeah.
Wow. Did she stop and thought about you on her wedding day?
I know.
That's actually really sweet.
And it was so unexpected. I showed up. She actually put all of her details for me in a bag with my logo on it that she printed from Etsy. I wasn't even sure if I was supposed to keep it at first. Yeah.
That's so cute.
I know.
That's so sweet.
That's literally the sweetest thing. And then in that bag with her details was this bag of coffee. And she was like, no, that's for you. That's not part of her details. Yeah. But it was a brand that one of her groomsmen actually has his own coffee roasting company called the Wise Men Coffee Co. So it's it was purposefully biblical, and I think he has a Bible verse on the back of it from Proverbs, and kind of about wise men, and so he roasts his own coffee beans and sells them. And so the notes, if anyone wanted to know, it's a medium roast, and the notes are supposed to be honey, milk chocolate, and citrus.
Ooh.
I don't know if you're getting those notes in yours at all.
I get it. I mean, I made it iced, so that's a big no-no as far as
tasting the notes.
But no, it's such a good coffee.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it's really smooth.
I've been drinking it every morning.
Yeah, I'm gonna buy some after this because I really like that they're very faith-driven. And 20% of their proceeds go to missions, I think. Yeah, I saw on the back.
Yeah.
Which is really cool.
It is super cool, and their logo on the bag too says "Coffee That Serves," which I think that's super cool because that's also how you and I look at our businesses as serving our clients, and I'm bro, I can relate to you.
I love that. Yeah, so I'm definitely gonna buy. Is this the Costa Rica? Oh yeah, that's the one I was gonna buy. That's what I'm drinking.
What you're drinking.
Look at that. We have good taste.
Yeah.
What we are going to talk about on this podcast.
We have a point.
Yeah, we do have a point. It is how we each started our businesses. But the coffee dates are just casual. It's just us talking. So this is who we are. We go on rabbit trails.
Oh yeah, there'll be
especially
more
about coffee.
Oh my gosh,
it happens. And also, sorry if my stomach growls during this podcast. I just realized that it's 2:30.
Oh no,
we need to go get lunch after this.
Lunch at 4 p.m.
That's me. That's literally
actually
every day.
Someone asked me the other day what time when they're asking me about my business and how I run in, and they're like, "What time do you normally eat dinner?" And I was like, 9 p.m.
Yep. Seriously, same.
Yeah.
If at all.
We ate dinner last night, I think, at 9 p.m.
Yeah. I got home from my session at 9 p.m. and then we went out and got Wendy's.
Yeah. Sounds about right.
On photo shoots, especially in the summer, it's really hard to actually make dinner because
summer is hard.
Because you can't really do it before because you just mentally have to be in the shoot, and then afterwards it's dark.
Yeah, it gets dark at 8:30. So your session is over late.
Yeah. So break the diet rules and eat.
Just 9. Make sure you're eating is the main.
That is good. That's important. I typically don't eat at lunch until 2:30 anyway.
Yeah,
it's really bad. But anyways. Because our businesses.
Yeah. Which we should talk about.
That's a smooth segue right there. I'm going to share about how I started my business, me, Lindsay.
Me being Lindsay.
Me being Lindsay. First, because I started my business first.
Yes. It just made sense.
It just made sense. So I guess I'll just go right into it. I actually literally had to sit down and look through my camera roll and make notes on when I started my business, because I get this question all the time on consultation calls and stuff, and I've never actually sat down and written down in all one place what my timestamps are of my business, my big business milestones. So I did that for you guys. Big stuff happening. I wrote down when I started my business.
It is always fun looking back.
It is. And then I want to actually eventually get to the point where I'm celebrating 5 years. Well, 5 years has already passed, but celebrating 10, because I don't know. it's something to celebrate.
Yeah.
Starting your own business is no joke. And sometimes I think we can forget that, like, this is incredible that we have our own businesses. Like, I was just, talking to a woman that was working a wedding that I was photographing. She was like, you're 25 and you work for yourself as your full-time income. And I was like, it's actually crazy.
That's actually rare.
Yeah. I was like, oh, wow. Because, I just, like, live my life and I just don't stop and think about it. But we are so blessed.
Yeah, I was not a business owner at 25.
Yeah.
Yet. Almost.
Yeah. It's just crazy. Like, so speaking of, I'm young and I work full-time in my business, and I actually started my business, I would say officially started in, I guess 2017 is when I would say I like officially started like advertising and charging for shoots. It's hard to like pinpoint because it wasn't like the day, there wasn't like a day. I just kind of, slowly, it was like a slow fade for me. Some people just like pick up a camera and then start doing portraits. That was not it for me. I think I said this in the first episode, but I was super, super shy when I was in high school and middle school. Super shy. I was actually homeschooled. So I don't think that it was because I was homeschooled because I was shy, the reason that I was shy, but I think that's just me as a person. But being homeschooled helped me stay shy, I would say. And so I was very quiet in high school, and I started falling in love with photography though in high school. I guess, whatever grade age 15 is. So it was when I was like 18, so I guess it was 2014 is when I first like realized my love for just photography in general. I think I was just playing around with like my mom's point and shoot that she had, and I just realized like that capturing little tiny moments was really sweet, and that kind of like piqued my interest. And then I would try to take like really cool pictures on my iPod. An iPod, oh my gosh. I had, what was it? I don't know, whatever one of the iPods that had like a nicer-ish camera on it. I had one of those. It's super cool.
That's funny.
And I didn't have a phone, so it was an iPod. Yeah.
Kids actually still do that today. I've seen it. iPads, I think. They used to take pictures.
Really?
Yeah.
That's sweet. I mean, cameras are so much better on those kinds of things now than they were. Like, it was really bad. But anyways, I would try and experiment with taking photos with my iPod. And actually, this is a really fun, I think it's a fun story. I was like, you need a lens to take a good picture, but what kind of lens goes on like an iPod? So I actually found an old disposable camera and literally took apart the disposable camera to get out the little tiny lens.
Oh my gosh.
Out of it, the lens and like the little black thing that goes around the lens.
You built your own lens.
Yeah, and then it's like super like like super just random scrappy kind of lens, but yeah. And so then I actually like got sticky tack and put it all around like the lens, and I stuck it to the lens of my iPod.
And this worked? Like it enhanced your photos like you thought it would?
Yeah, well, so what I really wanted to do was a macro photo. I really liked nature, and there was a big snowstorm or like a frost storm that had just happened, and so there's really pretty frost on like the pine trees outside my house, and so I wanted to take pictures of that. So so I like got sticky tack and stuck it to my iPod camera and took some pictures of the frost, and it actually worked.
That's crazy.
Like I can literally show you the picture. It is really cool. Like I'm still proud of that picture to this day, and that like in that moment when I like could see, like I was able to capture the individual details of the frost. Like you can see like the little snowflakes, like how they each have their own pattern, and like my mom would always say like how beautiful it is that God created each snowflake to be unique. Yeah, that had always captivated me. And so the thought of me being able to capture that, frost and snowflake leave so quick. Like as soon as you touch it, it melts. And so the thought of being able to freeze that moment in time, freeze the snowflakes, okay.
Pun.
Was so like earth-shattering to me. So that's like when I first fell in love with photography. And so that was when I was 15. That was like in 2014. And then that year I got my first like camera for, I guess it was a DSLR. I guess it was like a Canon Rebel T something, just like everyone else who starts photography apparently gets that same camera. After that, I also got the Nifty 50 with that for Christmas. So
what was it? 1 point. What?
I think it was probably 1.8. Yeah, it wasn't. Yeah. And so then that year, my mom enrolled me in a photography elective. Obviously, it was online because I was homeschooled. And it was by a guy who like works for National Geographic, kind of just teaching all the basics of photography. And so that's what I learned. I like practiced as I went along with his course and really like threw myself into it. But I was mainly interested in like the nature side of things. I was not at all interested in portraits. Again, super shy person. So I was learning how to express myself through that. I was always a very artistic person as a child. And so like I was used to like expressing myself and just trying new hobbies. Like at this point I had already been through like sewing, like art like in itself, like painting. I think I had like learned how to like crochet. Like I had already been through so many different artistic hobbies, but like photography really stuck for me. But just like nature stuff. I just like nature. Like I was like, I will not take pictures of people. That is very intimidating. And then as I was getting older, like me and my friends would be like, oh, let's take pretty pictures of each other and things like that. And so I would chase many a golden hour with my good friends and just like go out and take pictures, like me taking pictures of them just to try it out. And I eventually like really fell in love with like the idea of portraits. And so near the end of high school, I was actively photographing like senior portraits. I took like my brother's senior pictures, and kind of just like fell in love with like portraits in that way. And so then it changed to, okay, I'll do portraits, but I will never ever do weddings. Ever. In this time, I had also gotten a job at a coffee shop, my first job ever, when I was 15 also. So it was along the lines of when I started falling in love with photography. I got my first job as a barista. And my boss was the sweetest for giving me a chance because I was so incredibly quiet, and she actually really helped nurture the kind of like customer service and outgoing side of me. I was, very, very shy to the point where I like would rather just stay behind the espresso machine and make drinks than take orders. But she would at some point, she was just really wanting to push me, and she would just like actually have to say, I'm not helping that customer walk in, so if you're gonna like be good at customer service, you're gonna have to be the one to help them because I'm not gonna help them. And she really,
tough love.
I'm still so thankful for her for giving me a chance and pushing me to that, because that's how shy I was. And so that I think really helped build my confidence. And so then by the end of high school, I was starting to charge for photo shoots and stuff like that. So 2017 is when I graduated high school, and that's also the year that I say I started my photography business, because that's when I started charging. But again, I said I would never photograph weddings. Besides that, my first unofficial wedding was when I was also 17 when I did that. My sister's sister-in-law was getting married in Santa Barbara, California. Wow. And they just wanted someone to take pictures with an iPhone. And my sister was like, well, my little sister is getting into photography. Like, maybe she can just do it for you. So they just paid for my flight to California. But, like, hey, I wouldn't do that again.
That's still like what a lot of people would settle for.
Right. Yeah. So my first ever wedding, I didn't get paid for. Actually, I think they paid me like $200, but they paid for my trip to go to California. I traveled with my sister. Yeah, I think I was 17, and photographed literally a destination intimate wedding was my first ever wedding. It was in the Santa Barbara courthouse, which, look up pictures on your own, is stunning. Like, that is a wedding that I would like die to shoot again. Yeah, so it was really fun, and it was an intimate wedding, and my first official wedding was, I guess it was in 2018, so a few years after that of me being the lead shooter. So after I graduated high school, I was born and raised in Colorado, and because I met Sam when I was 16, he lived in Pennsylvania. I had visited Pennsylvania a few times and really fell in love with it. And so
you're wild for falling in love with Pennsylvania.
Well, where I grew up, there's literally no trees. The green lasts 3 months, and then it gets too hot and then it like kills it all. So like it's brown most of the year, no trees. Like it's beautiful in its own ways. It's just all extensive, like, you know, not very many buildings, tall grass. It's really pretty in its own way, but I was just really like loved like the woods and like green and the 4 seasons, and yeah. So
Green's the color I hate the most in photos.
Okay, in photos I agree, but for just me as a person,
In photos, I agree.
well, yeah, kind of.
Yeah.
It's hard. It can be hard. Green can be hard, but I also just, So I fell in love with Pennsylvania, and I also knew that I staying in Colorado was not for me. Staying in my small town was not for me. So when I graduated high school, I moved to Pennsylvania. When I was 18, my dad and I road tripped out, my little Mini Cooper packed full, and we road tripped out to Pennsylvania, and I moved to Pennsylvania in, I think it was January of 2018. Yeah, when I was 18. I turned 19 like a month later, so I guess technically 19, but yeah. And so I started my photography business or the wedding side of things, really started taking place because I was working at another coffee shop once I moved to Pennsylvania, again as a barista, and there was a lot of regulars there who were wedding photographers, and so I would build some relationships with them, kind of good connections with them. And then there was this one specific photographer, Janine, if you're listening, I'm thankful for you. She really was trying to push me to pursue photography more, and she was like, okay, Lindsay, you're second shooting for me. And I was like, I've never shot like a real wedding before. That one in Santa Barbara was the only one that I had ever shot. And so I was like, okay, like if you actually really trust me, like I'll do it. And so I second shot for her for the first time. That was in 2018. So I was 19 at the time when I second shot my first wedding, and at this point I had never really seen like how as a photographer a real wedding day actually went. Like I had attended weddings, but I was really just like watching a lot. And this is when the crazy story enters. Okay, the story that shocks me, that I was like, okay, yeah, I think I actually really like weddings, because little tiny Lindsay, 19 years old, first ever wedding. It was a wedding in Phoenixville. I can't think of the name of the venue. Drupal House or something. Okay. Yeah, I don't know. And Janine had built the timeline. So the groom and the groomsmen, and the bride and the bridesmaids were getting ready. Separate locations. Groom and groomsmen were getting ready at an Airbnb. Oh. So she actually had assigned me to go straight to the Airbnb. I don't even think I saw her yet. I don't know how. I must have shot on my own cars, or maybe she stopped and dropped off cars or something. I went straight to the groom and groomsmen Airbnb. I walk in. I'm terrified. Like, this is something. A bunch of men. I'm a shy person still, new state to me. And walk into an Airbnb of a bunch of men. Yeah. So I walk in, super nervous, and I am greeted by like 8 or 9 groomsmen, only in their boxers. Oh no. Drunk.
This is my fear, walking in on groomsmen all the time.
Yep, drunk.
Oh my gosh.
High. And in matching boxers that say groomsmen across all the butt and groom across the butt.
That's kind of funny, but they didn't need to show that off.
No, only girl there. There was no other female. They were
expecting you. Like, they knew the timeline. They knew the photographer was showing up, right?
I assume that, walk into that.
Oh, my gosh.
And not only that, they were dressed in that because they wanted pictures.
They literally went,
oh, no! Of that. So, like, literally, the first 10 pictures I have ever photographed at my first ever wedding was of 9 grown men.
Basically naked.
In their boxers, basically naked. And the only good lighting area at the Airbnb was right in the front yard. So, I have 9...
They probably loved that,
They loved it. I have 9 men sticking out their butts, literally in the front yard of an Airbnb in Phoenixville.
Oh, I love that.
And there was people honking.
Yep.
Oh my gosh. Yeah.
Oh my gosh.
That was like the first 30 minutes of my first ever wedding.
And then you were no longer shy after that.
I'm like, okay, if I've seen this, I've seen it all.
Instant shyness.
Like,
here.
and now that I've been a photographer for what, like 5 more years, like, I know that, like, that is so rare. Like, at least for my clientele.
That's my
like,
biggest
that
fear,
would
but
never
that's
happen.
never happened. I have wondered if I get anxiety every time I go to knock on the groomsman's suite door, and I'm like, is everybody dressed? And I hate asking, and like, it's just like,
because it's awkward. Because they laugh and stuff, and then you're like, yeah, I'm like a woman walking into your room right now. Like, it is such a thing. Yeah. So that was like the first 5 minutes of my first ever wedding.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah.
Did the bride know that they were doing that?
I don't think so. I think it was just like, you know how guys are. They're just like, oh, this is funny. Like, this is cool. I mean, which I'm sure they love those photos. Like, I'm sure.
Okay, but imagine being the bride and going through your gallery later, having no idea that you're.
Well, I showed up then with my to finally see the photographer the first time, and I was like, just so you know, this is what happened.
Also, it was not my idea.
Right. I know. That's literally what I did, because I was like, this is my first time ever shooting for her. First time ever shooting ever. And I don't want her to know, like, think that, like, Lindsay suggested this.
Right.
Like, Lindsay, no. Like,
Lindsay's provocative.
Oh my god.
Lindsay wants to do boudoir with men.
I was, like, so scarred after that.
Yeah,
I was so scarred. I think
be.
I've mentally blocked it out.
If that happened to me today, I would be still scarred by that. Like, as a grown woman, I would still be scarred by that.
And experienced wedding photographer.
Yeah,
that would still be something that you're like, oh. Yeah, so.
I would debate not doing weddings after that.
Yeah, but even, like, unbeknownst to how the morning started, like, that evening, like, the wedding was so beautiful, and, like, I just realized, like, driving home after that first ever wedding, second shooting, after being the person who said, I will never photograph weddings, way too much pressure, realized that, like, wow, like, my family and my people and my community, and obviously Sam, matter so much to me that, like, I would want, like, the absolute best pictures and, like, my memories captured forever, because foundationally I already was so drawn into the idea that photography can just, like, freeze a moment in time. I, like, realized as a wedding photographer, like, a wedding day is such a monumental day, that you want that frozen in time. And as a wedding photographer, I can help couples by doing that. And, like, that's what I realized at that moment. And, you know, after I drove home from that wedding, I was like, okay, Janine, what other dates do you have for me? Like, I'm hooked. So I second shot several weddings with her that year. I don't know, I think like 3 or 4. And by this time I was actually pretty much of an experienced photographer. I had to learn flash and stuff like that. That was a big stress point for me, because at this point I had only done really natural light stuff. But I learned flash, and then it was, I think, that next May that I photographed my first ever personal big normal wedding day. It was for my brother's childhood best friend and his wife, and actually Sam was my second shooter, because my husband Sam is also a wildlife photographer. So he does wildlife photography, and I tried to convince him that wildlife and weddings are no different. It's the people who are being the wildlife. They get pretty wild.
They do. The dance floor, that is like observing wildlife.
It truly is, actually. Just raw, like...
Yeah. You, like, off in a corner with the zoom lens. Like, that's basically how I shoot the reception.
Yes, I agree. So, he second shot with me, and that was in Colorado. So, for my business, I serve both Colorado and Pennsylvania still, because I was born and raised in Colorado. I still have a community there, but I live in Pennsylvania. So, I would say 95% of my weddings are in Pennsylvania, but that fun 5% is so sweet to be able to travel home to go photograph. And so, photographed my first official wedding, May of 2018. I was 19 at that time. And then I was part-time for a few years, again, working as a barista. And I really felt like working as a barista really helped me build my community here in Pennsylvania. If anyone ever is moving to a new area and can afford to be a barista or a bartender or something like that, I highly recommend that, to get to know the community. I still know a lot of people just because of the coffee shop. And so it was really great to build my community and build my circle for my business while working at a coffee shop. And so I actually went full-time in my business in 2020, actually. So working as a barista once COVID hit was way different. I'm so thankful that I still was working as a barista during that time, because I know COVID was really hard on a lot of wedding photographers, and it was hard on me too. But because I still had an income as far as a barista, it was a lot easier. So I was still working at the coffee shop through the end of 2020, and then because COVID really helped me take a step back and really focus on my business, what I wanted out of life, because there were several months, no one was working. You had a lot of time with your thoughts. Mm-hmm. That's when I realized that it was time for me to take the leap of being full-time. I had seen a lot of people say, as soon as you go full-time, like your finances, your bookings, that will follow. Like all it really takes is taking that leap, and then you'll be able to just really explode with your business. And I was like really doubting that it was going to happen, but that's exactly what happened. I went full-time at the end of 2020, and 2021 and 2022 was a huge wedding boom because so many people had to postpone from 2020. So I do feel like it was a really great time to go full-time into my business. So I went into full-time at that point, and I think I booked like more than enough weddings to like make a good income within that first year. Also, my husband and I have a very unique living situation, so we don't have very many expenses, I guess I'll say. So that really helped me be able to take the leap to go full time. I know that I'm super blessed in that, and that is a rare situation to not have a ton of expenses. So anytime people ask me like, how did you do it, Lindsay? I'm like, I'm honestly not the best example as far as of realistic life, I guess, expense-wise, but I feel super blessed for that. So I never want to like belittle that, but that I think does make the nuances of my business and going full-time really unique. But yeah, and so that was 2020, and so now it's 2024, and I'm still full-time wedding photographer. I absolutely love it. I've learned a lot along the way. I think I've really actually learned the most in the past year about myself and like what I really want my business to look like. Just like everybody else, I started with, big weddings and just taking whatever came to me. And last year, I guess it was 2 years ago, I just realized like I really want to make sure I am booking people who I really vibe with, because I know that I can serve them best if they're like people that I get along with. Again, like I'm not the most extroverted person. I'm not the kind of person that, will get along with any and everyone. I mean, I do get along with any and everyone, but like I really wanted to make sure that these people are people I'm comfortable with, because I know that way I can serve them the best. So I really started niching down as far as being more specific about the clientele that I attract. And actually it almost ruined my business. I honestly feel like I almost lost my business last year. I attended a workshop, or I wasn't able to actually attend it because of a COVID thing. But I virtually then attended the talks of this workshop, and I personally, there was a lot of good stuff in it, but personally, I feel like that workshop was really bad advice, at least for me. For my approach and for my business, it was a lot about money and how to make a lot of money, and it was an elopement workshop, because I was feeling like maybe that's the niche that I need to go into to find the people that I want to find. I was just convinced of that those are my people and that's what I need to do. And after that workshop, I was convinced that I needed to stop like posting all wedding stuff and only post things like elopement stuff and only take elopement and intimate wedding things. And so I was turning down big weddings, and I was only trying to push intimate weddings and elopements, and I almost like didn't book anything for the year of 2024, because that all was happening last year, 2023. And I just like mid-year, I actually had the epiphany while I was with you.
Yeah, I was gonna say, I remember walking through all this with you.
Yeah, it was a coffee date.
Ironic.
See, all the best things now the COVID date. It was a coffee date, and I think you were editing, so I wasn't I was talking at you, but we weren't really talking, you know? And we were both editing, and I just had the epiphany that what is foundational in what I love about weddings is being non-traditional, not feeling like you have to fit into a mold. And then here I am turning down weddings that didn't fit into the mold that I have placed on a couple.
Ouch.
And I think that's like it's the beauty of niching down, but also the beast of niching down is you're telling people that you have to be a certain way to work with me. And I just realized that for me myself, that was not who I was. I wasn't the kind of person who's like, oh, your wedding is over 15 people, I'm not going to photograph it. Like, if you have more than 15 people that you want to share your day with, I will not photograph it for you. That felt so wrong to me. But that's, like, what I was doing.
Yeah, because there's definitely ways you can niche down very more broadly. I think you should niche down, like, broadly.
Right.
Because there are certain couples that obviously, like, I would serve better because of who I am and who they are. Like you were saying, like, you do have to find couples that, like, connect with you and trust you and there's, like, this mutual relationship with.
Exactly. And
but that's, like, so specific that, like, how many people are you cutting off that you would still jive with, that you'd still be able to serve to the best of your ability, but they're just not checking these boxes that are so, like, minuscule and
so limiting.
Do they really matter?
Yeah, and so...
Because what you were after is... Your niche was you just wanted couples that were intentional with their days. Yeah. And you thought that looked like intimate, under 15.
It can only be intimate and elopements.
But then you realized, no, you can be so intentional with your day and still have 150 guests.
Right. Which, like, I do still believe that, like, having a smaller wedding is the easiest way to have an intentional wedding. Because if you're not inviting everyone you know and more... then you don't have to, like, worry about, like, oh, what are those people going to think of what I'm doing? So I still believe that, like, if you really want super, like, unique and like, intentional wedding day, an intimate wedding or even an elopement is the best way to do that. But I have seen such beautiful, beautiful weddings that are big. Yeah, you know, like Merritt and Lee's wedding that we photographed together. Yeah. That was one of the large bridal party. That weekend, I had a double header, and both of those weddings were just incredible. That weekend was what really started me, like, debating, because that was in August. So my 2023 season was halfway over, and I had literally 2 weddings booked for 2024 at August of 2023.
Yeah, like, well, it was also confusing because. As you were processing through all this, because I was seeing a lot of photographers say that they were not getting as many inquiries as they usually do, and then people started coming up with, like, all these post-COVID, like, theories about, like, if weddings dropped during COVID, they spiked the following year, now they're dropping again, like, is this a trend, is this a thing? And so photographers were, like, trying to feel that out, so you also weren't sure, like, is this, like, a thing that everyone is experiencing, or is this a thing because I made a change in my business and I need to undo that change? Like, that was super confusing.
Yeah, it was. It was really... I mean, ever since COVID, I feel like the wedding industry has changed every single year. Oh, yeah. I mean, I was in a wedding photographer for very long before COVID. Most of my experience has been post-COVID weddings, but 2020... obviously that was its own beast, and then 2021 was like a mix, and then 2022 was like full on big party crazy weddings, go all out, because the last 2 years we've done nothing. And then 2023 was like kind of slowing down with that, as far as not as many crazy big weddings, people who got a little bit more down to earth, like, this is who we are, this is what matters to us. And then 2024, I think, because no one can afford anything, people are having to be very intentional because of inflation. People are having to be very intentional with their weddings, and they really I think a lot of people are, like, not having a big wedding because it's so expensive.
You do see it, like, and the other thing I saw that I think COVID affected within 22 and 23 that became super popular was doing, like, on one day you do, like, an elopement ceremony, and then on another day, whether it's a year later or a month later, you do a reception where you invite everybody to at a completely different location too.
Oh my gosh!
I got booked for a lot of those, which was kind of nice because
love that.
Yeah, I was like, essentially it's like a double booking in one client. Yeah, because I'm doing their ceremony and their reception separately though.
I love that. I think that could be a whole episode because I have a lot to say about that.
Jot that down.
Yeah, true. We're writing it down in the notes. Yeah, because I think that is so true.
Yeah.
Yeah. I think that is a really beautiful way to do weddings. Yeah, so it's been really different. So yeah, so I truly do feel like I mean, that's being a little dramatic as far as I feel like I almost lost my business last year, but I was considering getting a job again. Like, wow. That's how rough it got. Yeah. But then I realized that I had that epiphany at the coffee shop with you that day. And literally that day, I changed, like, the main H1 heading on my website to intentional wedding photographer instead of intimate wedding photographer, because I was really going for the intimate weddings. I wasn't niching all the way down to elopements because I really love family dynamics on a wedding day, and so I didn't really want to niche all the way down to elopements. So intimate weddings is what I was going for. I changed it that day to intentional wedding photographer, changed the verbiage a little bit on my website, and literally within a month, I booked 8 weddings.
Oh my gosh. That
were all, like, the most genuine, like, aligned with me personally, couples that I have ever met.
Wow.
Like, I'm like, where have these people been? Like, one of my consultation calls, I actually did their engagement photos last night. It was so much fun. Their consultation call literally was an hour and a half because we were just talking about everything. Like, we talked about, like, wellness, like, holistic medicine, like, everything. Like, I would say 30 minutes of that was talking about wedding photography, and the rest was just hanging out.
Aww.
And I just felt like the Lord just, like, was like, yes, this is it. I think earlier in that year, I was just trying to muscle my way into something that I wasn't actually. And I was also realizing that, like, I was trying to take my business to something to serve me.
Mm-hmm.
And I realized that, like, the only reason I'm a wedding photographer is because God has given me this gifting and he has this mission laid out for me. And that's the only reason I'm a wedding photographer. And using it as a self-serving, like, almost like an idol, honestly. Using my business as an idol is what I was going down to. And it's unloving for Christ to, like, gratify us in that. I'm thankful he didn't provide a bunch of intimate weddings and elopements for me, because if he did, I probably would still be trying to market that. And that's more about me than it is about the couple. So
yeah,
I'm thankful that, like, that, like, didn't work out like that.
Yeah.
And yeah, so now like, this year, like, all my weddings are super, like, sweet and intentional. Like, I'm really, like, working on encouraging my couples to take a step back and think about ways they can add intention on their wedding day, because I think it can be easy to get caught up in the details, the guest list, like, food they're gonna eat, and, like, totally pass over that this is, like, the one time that you guys are both alive, that you can both have all your loved ones all in one room, just to celebrate you. You are the sole reason that they're there, and they're to celebrate with you. And not taking that moment with the utmost intentionality and seriousness is a mistake that I think a lot of couples make.
Yeah.
And it breaks my heart because I also made some of those mistakes. I wish I was more intentional with my wedding day, looking back on it. And so that's, like, I feel like that is, like, I'm so passionate about that, and that's where my business is going, and I'm so excited because my couples are so there as well. And I think I can not only create beautiful pictures for them, but I'm also helping them think of, like, more moments, that they can add to their day that, of course, in turn make beautiful photos, but I'm not just there for the beautiful photos of them. Like, they're going to be able to have that memory because they stopped to think about having, a first look with their grandma, something like that. Again, more grandmas.
More grandmas.
Or, like, they actually took the time to stop and dedicate their bouquet to their mom.
I love those.
That's a new thing that's happening, and I love that. I love that. Yeah. I was actually at a wedding just on Saturday, and the planner was like, that the couple did that. The bride donated her bouquet, dedicated her bouquet to her mom, and the planner was like, what does this mean? Like, what is this?
The planner had never seen that?
No, and so I explained it to her, and I was, like, really, like,
emotionally
excited. I was excited about it because I think it's so beautiful. And she's like, oh, I don't like that. She's like, the mom probably doesn't even want the flowers.
What? Yes, the mom does.
I was like, what?
What's the meaning behind look past the freaking flowers? Also, what woman doesn't want flowers?
Great. oh my gosh. And it's just like the thought that counts in the moment.
That's what I mean.
And the mom feels loved because the mom of the bride does so much.
She did so much to raise that girl.
Yeah, not only raise the girl, like that is a huge thing. And then the wedding day, like, yeah. And I was just like shocked. I was like, oh, okay. I'm done talking now.
Thanks for sharing your opinion. I'm done talking now.
Yeah,
actually, yeah, I don't like it either.
Yeah, right. No, I did not say that. I was just like, okay, well, I do like it. I didn't actually say that. Thanks for crushing my soul.
Okay, well, what if I ask you like a few questions about your business a little bit, and then you just answer like an interview style. Well, I'll interview you a little bit.
Okay, love it.
Okay, so what's something that you are glad you did as you were starting your business?
I'm glad that I went full time when I did. I think it was like a scary time to go full time, 2020, but I'm glad that I did when I did because I had the time to just like slowly go back in, like go into the wedding industry full time as weddings were happening again. Yeah. So I'm thankful I did that.
In hindsight, that was actually probably the best time because all of life was transitioning then. Yeah. Everyone's jobs were changing. Yeah. It might have actually been a good time to been like, let's roll with some change.
Yeah, well, I mean, I'm also glad that I didn't start my business in 2020. I think so many people started their business in 2020. I'm thankful I have the foundation pre-2020 and I had all of that down. I had my business running before that. Yeah. But I went full time in 2020. I feel like for me, that was like a perfect timeline. Yeah. So that's what I'm thankful that I did. Also, another thing is I'm glad that I drew boundaries right away in my business. That's going to be a whole other hot topic. But as soon as I went full time, I drew the boundary of I will not photograph on Sundays because something that scared me about going full time was I'll never have weekends with Sam and family and friends. So I said Sundays are for Jesus, friends and family, and obviously Sam. All the time for Sam. And that's something that I'm thankful that I just did from the beginning. So it was just easy just to say, nope, this is something I don't do.
I love that about you. So that was one of the first things that like when we first met and you told me about that conviction, I was like, oh my gosh, I need to keep Lindsay in my life because I need her to speak like truth and convict. Like I need her to inspire me of how to be like a glorify the Lord with my business in ways that I don't compromise.
I didn't know that.
Yeah.
That's so sweet. Wow, I'm glad I was inspiring that. Because it's hard. It's hard to do.
I mean, I don't have that same exact rule, but the general, like... Conviction of things that I feel like the Lord has put on my heart to hold sacred in my business. I don't compromise that no matter what.
Right. Yeah. Now, this is definitely a topic that we can talk. We're going to have a whole episode on. Oh, yeah. Because I was actually just doing devotions last week, and I was like, this is something we need to talk about. Yeah. So that's my answer. That's the two things I'm thankful I did.
Such a good answer. Okay, what about the opposite? What would be something you would go back and change about starting your business?
Ironically, I would actually make my website sooner. I procrastinated that so much, and I actually didn't even make my website until I went full time. So at that point, I had already been a photographer for 3 years, and I didn't have an official website built. I wonder if my business could have succeeded a lot quicker if I would have started pouring into a website sooner. So
that actually makes a lot of sense. I feel like that's good advice.
Yeah. Just don't procrastinate on the website, even if it's just like honestly your portfolio and like an about me page. Like even if it's just that, it just proves that you're a legit business.
Yeah, I was gonna say, what is it about websites that make that feel legit?
Like people feel like this is like not suspicious or an amateur. Right. I think it really sets you apart as this is a professional because she actually has a website. Yeah, I don't know. So that's something that I wish I would have done sooner. Yeah.
Nice.
All right, now I want to hear all about your business.
Okay.
I want to hear all about it. So,
well, mine's a much shorter timeline, so not as in-depth, but I technically shot my first wedding. I'm pretty sure it was February of 2021. Okay. But this is I did not look them up like you did, like for exact. So I'm going off of memory, but what I remember is that it was a COVID wedding. Okay. Like, I remember not being fully COVID-y, but I remember that this couple was still very much on high alert about COVID. Okay. And so they were doing an elopement, basically them getting married. Everyone was wearing masks, everyone being like all 8 people that were in attendance, which was just like their parents and their siblings, and that was it. It was just a ceremony in their church it was actually right down the street from my house. That was it. So they reached out to me to photograph it because although it was still an elopement, it was still special to them because it's still their wedding day.
Yeah.
They did not end up doing like a wedding a year later. Like that was just it for them. So they still wanted it like documented. They reached out to me because my husband was roommates for like 3 years in college with the groom. So they were really close. So they knew about me and I remember they literally said, your Instagram is pretty cool. You look like you know how to like take and edit photos. Do you want to shoot our wedding? Like that was what it was.
At this point, you did not like have a camera.
I didn't even have a thought in my mind about being a photographer. I just took photos like for fun with my friends. Like when we went out for dinner. Yeah.
Oh my god.
And I didn't use Instagram's filters. I actually was a little insane, and I did have a Lightroom preset that I would edit I would take a photo on my phone.
Check you out.
I know. Put it into Lightroom, edit it on Lightroom, and then upload it to Instagram. I was a little insane, just for my personal Instagram. I liked when my feed looked like it kind of all had the same color.
So you had an eye for photography.
I just don't know where that came from.
That's crazy.
I was always artistic growing up. Same thing as you. Like I took a lot of art classes in high school, and I was good at that. And I always love taking pictures. Like if I go out with my friends, I'm that annoying friend that's like, wait, you can't eat your food until I take a picture of everybody's food.
Same.
Wait, this is so aesthetic. I want to take a picture. That was so me. And yeah, like I said in the intro episode, I think like I have an eye for color. Like the colors in a room like affects me and stuff like that. So I guess I've always had this eye. But yeah, they kind of noticed that on my Instagram. They're like, your Instagram's cool. Like, do you want to just take our wedding? And I happened to have a camera. I hadn't picked it up in years. But my dad bought me a camera for Christmas when I was like a teenager. So at this point, this camera, same as you. It was a Rebel T3, I think, Canon. Probably 8 years old at this point.
Oh my word.
That's what I shot their wedding on.
It's probably the same camera I started on. Because, you know what? It probably was. Because if I started when I was 15.
Oh, yeah.
And your camera was a few years old.
Probably was a popular camera at that time.
Check it out.
I don't have that camera anymore. I sold it.
I mean, that's long gone.
Yeah. But, I think so that wedding, I ended up posting on my Instagram that I was like doing a friend's wedding. I think I posted a few photos from it. And then there was another couple that was in the ministry group Crew. They were in Crew. They both had graduated from Crew, and they asked me to do their wedding. And that was also a COVID-ish wedding. It was that fall. It would have been October of 2021. Okay. So life is rebounding for the most part. Yeah. Obviously, there are still some people who are skeptical, but I think most of life rebounded by that part. So that was like a fuller wedding day, where it was like the getting ready through the reception, but it was just such a simple wedding, and they asked me to do that. So yeah, same thing. Shot their wedding on the same camera. And posted some of those photos. Looking back, I cringe at them. Like, I think they were terrible. Sure. But that wedding is what snowballed. Yeah, they loved them. And that wedding, snowballed. All these people started reaching out to me after that. That's awesome. I don't even know. I blinked, and it turned into... I blinked, and I was so booked that I had to quit my job at a church. At the time, I was working part-time for Crew and part-time for church. So I quit my church job to do photography full-time because I was like, wow. Actually, what made me realize is another full-time photographer friend of mine was asked me how much I was booked because she noticed you're doing a lot. How often do you shoot? How much are you booked? And I told her, and she was like, that's full-time. And she's like, that's almost more than I'm doing. And I was like, what? Crazy. So she's like, I didn't realize I was working full-time hours with photography. So I was like, well, I could quit my job and just do this.
That's wild.
So I did.
So it happened within what? How long?
I think it was a year and a half.
Wow. Yeah, because when you first reached out to me on Instagram for that location, you were doing it. Yeah. And that was October 2022.
Yeah, so I quit my job at church in January of 2022. January 1st was when yeah.
So is that when you say you went full time?
Yeah.
That's crazy.
And then I think, like, maybe a year later, I quit crew then, too, because I was realizing I couldn't keep up with both.
Okay.
So, yeah.
That is wild.
Yeah.
That went so fast.
I know.
What do you test, like, a lot of your, like, the quickness of your business happening, like, to?
People have asked me, how did you grow so quickly? Or, like, do you have any tips so I can grow a lot of people are reaching out at that time. And, like, I wish I could tell them more because I wish I had the mindset of being intentional about it. Like, I just never had the mindset of I'm going to pursue photography. I think what happened was it was word of mouth. Yeah. Of client referring client. Yeah. So it was a lot of, like, inward circle people at first. I really don't. That's the only guess I have. I think also because photography, I've approached it of more of a relational standpoint, which I know is the same as you, where it is you center, like, what you do and why you do it on loving and serving your couples. Mm-hmm. And I think because people just come naturally to me because I'm so extroverted and, like, I'm a little bit of a people pleaser to a fault. Mm-hmm. But I think that like, I think the people who work with me can feel that. Yeah. How easy it is for me to connect with them and stuff. So I think that makes a difference in what it's like to stand in front of someone's camera. And then that would be the reason why they're sharing my name with other people. Yeah. And I think that's why. I've always said I think that photography is more of a relational thing than it is, like, a technical thing. Yeah. Like, it's not so much about knowing how to work a camera because you can always learn that or whatever. Right. But if you have a natural connection with people, I think that's what sets you apart.
It's the things you can't teach is what makes or breaks it. Like, you can't teach an eye for photography. Right. You can't teach, well, maybe you can a little bit to an extent, but you really can't teach having that relational drive. Yeah. Like, that's the kind of something you have or you don't. You can nurture it. Yeah. But, yeah. Yeah. That's so cool.
Yeah. And then just shot my first destination wedding ever in April of 2024. So, like, last month.
It was stunning.
Yeah, and that, like, pushed me so much as an individual. Like, you said you were someone who traveled across the country. You moved by yourself at, what, 18, you said? Yeah. So I had never really traveled alone before, especially that far. So as an individual, for someone who's incredibly people dependent, traveling that far to a country that doesn't speak English by myself was a big deal. Yeah.
Yeah. And next time you're definitely bringing me.
Next time I'm not going alone. Like, I'm glad I had that, like, learning experience, but not doing that again. I think I just got lucky with a couple of the travel incidents where, like, I was safe the entire time and like it was easy and simple, but I really feel like I got lucky and I don't want to risk that again. Yeah. And just, like, trust that everything will be perfectly fine.
Yeah, that scares me.
Because there's so much that goes into
That's impressive, though.
Yeah, and then, like, obviously professionally it challenged me, too. It was, like, raining the whole day. For a destination wedding, for it to be raining is, like, sad. The worst. So it pushed me to, like, think about how to capture that day still, like, creatively and well, even with the rain.
And you're really good.
Thank you.
Yeah. Like, looking at the photos, like, aside from the ground being wet, like, I wouldn't think it looked like a rainy wedding.
Yeah. I gotta give it to the couple for honestly trusting me with every decision. Like, they just fully took whatever I said they would happily do.
That's when we can do our best work.
Yep.
When they say, we trust you.
Yep.
Fully.
Yeah.
I love that.
Yeah.
Well, can I ask you then a few interview questions?
Yes, please do.
I love how, like, much shorter your story is than mine, but I guess it was a shorter, like, mine was a lot of build up. Yeah. My whole business. Right. And yours it wasn't the blink of an eye.
Right.
So,
right.
I guess.
Right. And I didn't have that much mindset behind it. Like, I feel like the Lord, because that's the other thing. I can't tell you how I picked up a camera and knew how to use it. How did I know how to balance my f-stop with my shutter speed with my ISO? Like, I don't know.
I think it was just, like, all the Lord. Like,
that's
seriously.
what I'm saying. Like, how did I know how to work on my camera set? Immediately was shotting in manual. Immediately.
Shotting.
Did I say shotting? Shooting.
She can shoot in manual, but she can't pronounce it.
Guys, is it obvious I'm an amateur? I'm self-taught.
I'm shotting a wedding today.
I was an English major in college.
I love shotting everything.
Yeah.
Wow.
True.
Yeah, it's so good.
Did you ask me a question?
I was going to. And then I totally derailed with that. Okay, what is something that you are glad you did in your business? It's like starting out.
Yeah, okay, so this might go into like how I knew how to work my camera settings or just how I got tips from the beginning, but I ended up building myself a really amazing creative community of other local female business owners.
Love that.
Yeah, and oh my gosh, that's the best advice I could give for anyone starting a business, because one, community over competition is the biggest
100%.
thing for anyone. But just having that mindset that like the other photographers who live in your area are not your competition. Like you actually need each other.
Absolutely.
Whether it's like having second shooters around you, like you guys can actually just share in each other's businesses, second shoot for each other, like, or whether it's just like what we do, where it's like getting together and just talking about the hard things about being a business owner or things we have questions about, and just like sharing mindset. Maybe we don't have the answers, but just hearing each other's hearts behind it can be so helpful.
Yeah.
You do have the answers for me a lot of times because you've been in photography a lot longer.
Well, and you have, and same with you. Like, even though like you haven't been a photographer for as long as I do, like I think you have less rules built for yourself than I do.
Yeah.
And I think that is really good for me to hear sometimes, is like that perspective, because I have been in it longer, and like you like aren't scared to just like break the mold as much as like I put boundaries on myself to not break the mold, because I'm like so like mentally like this has to be the way it is.
Yeah.
So, yeah. Vice versa.
Yeah. So I think that creative community really helped. And then I think something else I'm glad I did, and I don't know if I did this intentionally or this was just natural because of, again, that people loving like natural part of my personality, but giving my clients the experience they have, like booking someone who's more than just a photographer, but will like literally from the first day they inquire all the way through the delivery of the gallery, like what is the client experience like? I feel like I really did build like a really beautiful, unique experience for my clients from the beginning, just coming alongside of them and helping them build their timeline for their wedding day, their engagement shoot, and how I even approached their engagement shoot and stuff like that. All the messages back and forth, offering advice, offering vendor referrals, like just everything, like really coming alongside all of my clients and making them feel like they're the only client I have almost.
Yeah, and you just did that naturally.
Yeah. But I'm glad I did, because I think that made a huge difference.
Right. People take years. I mean, I took years to get to that point to realize this is something I need to do. Yeah,
like invest in. It's like half, the other half of your business is your client experience.
Yeah, absolutely. That's so cool.
One last thing I'm actually super glad I did, this one was intentional, is that I did not start a separate Instagram account for my business. I actually just morphed my personal account into my business account, and I only have one.
Brilliant, because it was already so cute.
And thanks. I feel like I have so many reasons of why I did this, because I put so much thought into making this decision. But one, I already feared I didn't love social media. Pros and cons. We talk about this all the time.
Hate social media.
Yeah. And so I was like, do I really want to run a whole separate account? I don't even like running one account all the time. The other thing was like, I just knew if I started a business account, I would stop posting on my personal account. Like I just knew it would fade into nothing.
Yeah.
Because owning a social media account was weird to begin with.
Yeah.
And I think then the last thing I was like, well, if I want my business to be so relational, like I just kept seeing like the advice would be like post on your professional account, like really just show up and be yourself and like show other parts of your life because your clients will love to see that and blah, blah, blah. So I was like, oh, if I'm going to be posting like that anyways, then why would I even have two accounts?
So brilliant.
The other thing was following account. If I started a new account from 0 followers, who's going to look at that and be like, oh, this photographer knows what she's doing? I cheated, and I already had a following account of like 800 or something like that for my personal account. So I was like, well, if I just call this Cat Steely Photography, start posting photography, but I already have 800 followers, I would grow from there much easier than growing from 0.
And people wouldn't have to like actually choose to follow you. You just forced it on them. Sounds bad, but like it's brilliant.
Yeah, like not that following account, like it doesn't matter in the sense that you shouldn't post with the motivation of gaining new followers, but for someone coming into your page, if you have 30 followers versus you have 800, they'll like
definitely.
trust you more,
Right.
which mattered.
That probably did help with your growth a lot.
I think so.
Yeah. I didn't do that. I started my own. And now, like, 7 years later, like, I wish I would have just transformed my personal Instagram. But also, it was just such a different, like, nuance than yours.
Yeah.
Because I was also, not only, I started an Instagram, but I moved to a whole other state where I straight up didn't know anyone.
Yeah.
So I don't think it probably in the end would have mattered for me. I just don't post on my personal Instagram ever.
Right, that's what
like
I'm saying.
my business Instagram is practically my personal.
Yeah.
So if you want to know what's going on in my life, like follow my business. I send reels to my friends on my personal. That's about it.
Oh yeah, same. Like I definitely treat mine as it's. And you know what I also did is I created a close friends. You can do that on your stories. You can create like that separate close friends list, and I just made that like people in my life that are literally my closest friends. And then if I want to post a story that is like super personal to my friends, I just post it there.
That's a good idea.
Yeah.
There you go. Inspiration.
Yeah.
Okay, what is something that you would change about starting your business, like looking back?
Yeah, a lot, because I didn't know what I was doing. Honestly, I probably would have started as a second shooter instead of jumping into 0 to 100. Like, for the sake of, I think I was fine experientially. I think I handled all my clients fine. I think I handled like the administrative side of business fine.
Yeah.
I think what would have improved on and would have been better for me in the long run is like mostly pricing myself, which also would have been born out of confidence in myself.
Ooh.
Which I think would have come from if I second shot for other wedding photographers and then built experience through that and then a portfolio through that. And then I would have been able to price myself higher from the beginning.
Yeah.
Because what happened was I was really passionate about being affordable to people who didn't have a lot of money.
Yeah.
And I think that drew in actually clients that just didn't appreciate me because they only chose me because I was cheap.
It's so sad when you like go into something with so much intention to be a blessing and like a lot of times like those are the people who then just take advantage of you.
Yeah.
It's really sad.
It is really sad.
I wish it wasn't that way because like I would still charge dirt if I was able to like be a blessing to people who saw it as a blessing.
Yeah. And you know what? The freedom of my business is that I had a couple who I did their wedding and then they pretty much got pregnant on their honeymoon. So they asked me to do their maternity shoot and I knew they could barely afford my wedding package, but they paid it anyways. I came up with a special payment plan just for them, which you can do as a business owner.
I do it all the time.
Yep. If they're really, finances really are a problem, stuff like that. And I just remember how long it took them to pay the down payment. And they're fresh out of college. So they're really young.
Yeah.
So I just know that money is a thing. But they were willing to pay what I was asking. Then they got pregnant and they wanted me to do their maternity shoot. I told them my rate for that, and they took a while to get back. And then eventually they were like, we actually just can't afford this right now. I'm really sorry. I would have loved to have you do our photos.
Yeah.
They just weren't going to do any photos. And that made me really sad because I was like, this is your first pregnancy ever. They're a Christian couple. Like, they love the Lord. So I was like, you know what? I will do them for free because
I love that.
Yeah, because I can, and because you guys were a wedding couple of mine, like just literally because I can make the decision to, and I know that they actually do appreciate me so much. They were not a couple who was like undercutting my value at all. And so, I did their maternity photos for free just because I wanted to offer that to them. But then they ended up bringing me a gift as a thank you. And this was like right after I had my miscarriage. And they brought me a necklace with a little like mustard seed in it with like this Bible verse about how like I don't remember what it said, but the sentiment behind it was like that your baby was tiny but like obviously like growing like with the Lord now, and like this necklace can remind you like that your little baby seed that you had once. Like how thoughtful and intentional is that?
That's so sweet. That's like literally like that's why we do what we do.
Yeah.
Is so we can be a blessing.
Yep.
Like I love that.
Me
and
too.
then it's just so special when couples then reciprocate that.
Yeah.
Just like I never serve with the intention of being served back. Like that's never a thought of mine. But when it happens, it's like, oh my gosh, it's like so reassuring. Like, I am where I'm supposed to be.
Yes.
Yeah. And it's beautiful. I love that. Yeah. I don't like I shoot for free sometimes. Like like when I feel like I want to be a blessing, like I never second guess that, and I'm really thankful for that.
Yeah.
A lot of people would disagree with that, but...
No, I shoot for free, especially if I'm doing something where it's literally just for the purpose of feeling creative.
Yeah. I admire you in that, and I want to start getting better at that. Because I need to do that.
Yeah, well, it feels freeing, I guess, maybe because money isn't tied to it, so they're not clients.
Right.
So, and then it does feel a little bit more like I can ask them, if I have a specific vision, I can ask them to do it because it's not their engagement session, it's my creative session.
And then you feel charged because of it.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I like that. Yeah, I guess that's something that I guess I wish I would have done sooner is like done more styled shoots and stuff like that as soon as I moved to Pennsylvania because to build more community.
Oh, yeah.
I did one, and actually I made so many good friends from there, and I still talk to some of them, and I still sometimes use those photos. We're like really fun, but I wish I would have done that more and more.
Yeah.
Like turned more of my newer income into investments just right away, and just like paying for the styled shoots, paying for the workshops right away.
Yeah.
So,
yeah.
Another thing. Investing
in your business that way, because I hear this all the time and see this all the time. Like, and we got started on our businesses with like the most basic equipment. Like, it's not about the equipment that you're using. You don't need to necessarily invest in the best lens that is literally $3,000.
It's
like,
not, yeah.
No. You don't need to get started that way.
No. And you can even, like, I am a huge advocate for like renting gear and trying it out. Like, I'll put the link in the show notes for my favorite
borrow lenses. You don't like them?
Lens Rentals, which actually now has bought borrow lenses.
Wait, yeah, I was just gonna say, I got an email that they bought them.
Yeah, so that means they're better.
That means they were bigger.
They're not the same thing. Lens Rentals is incredible. Their customer service is excellent. There is times where like my UPS was like delivering a whole day late, and there was one time I was flying to California for a wedding, and I was renting a lens for it, and it didn't come to my house before I flew out. Luckily, I gave myself a buffer day of travel for the wedding, and they literally overnighted a lens to be sent to like a UPS store in California so that I could pick it up.
Wow.
And then they just trusted me to return both lenses, and I did, obviously.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's wild.
Highly recommend Lens
so
Rentals.
amazing.
Like, you can easily try out, even just I do it for trying out lenses that I might want to buy, especially because lenses are such an investment.
Yeah.
Like, do I actually like how heavy it is?
Yeah, I do the same thing. I want to
like
actually rent the 28-70 for Canon because everybody's talking about that. It's like the lens to buy right now.
It is.
But I'm going to try it out first.
I actually just rented the 24-70 for Nikon. It's like pretty much the equivalent for my elopement in California, and I actually didn't like it.
Really? This is why you try it. Too heavy?
Too sharp.
Sharp.
My photos were
you are softening your photos right now.
Well, I mean, that was part of the reason I started, because that lens is too sharp.
Huh.
But
interesting.
It looked like
almost fake.
Yeah, like HR. Yeah. Too much. HD? No, it's HR. It's HD or HR.
I don't actually know.
Whichever one is gross.
Don't ask me. I'm a self-taught beginner. I don't know words.
Yeah, so, no, it's HD, high definition range.
HR just makes me
think... HDR. What is that? So, yeah. Anyways, that's so interesting.
Yeah, very different, but still similarities between you and me.
There are a lot of similarities in just, like, how, you know, each business is started.
Yeah.
If you were to tell someone, like, this is exactly how to start a photography business from, like, just start, what would you say?
Get a camera. I don't even know. Get a couple. I don't even know. What would I say? I don't know. I think there's actually a lot of steps, but at the same time, there's not.
I think we overcomplicate it.
Yeah.
I would say if you just, like, are curious, just get a good camera and just, like, practice on people that you know. And then once you have your settings down in a comfortable way, just second shoot. Or even if you're nervous about second shooting, just ask wedding photographers if you can shadow them.
Yes.
Because wedding photography is not for everyone.
No, it's not.
It's not for the faint of heart.
Nope.
Like, we can romanticize it. It's tough sometimes, so it's not for everybody. If you're not an outgoing person, I would say it's not for you. Mm-hmm. And I would say, shadow a few weddings, shadow sessions. Like, again, so many local photographers are so about community over competition. Like, if anybody came up to me and was like, I would want to could I shadow a session with you? I would say absolutely.
Yeah.
I probably wouldn't take them to a client that I've never met before. I would probably schedule an inspirational session for myself, but I would say absolutely, because I don't know, a lot of people would charge lots for that. But.
Oh yeah, I've actually taken risks on a few people like that, and it's worked out well for me so far.
Yeah.
But
I've taken risks too. Like, I've had photographers reach out to me to be like, can I shadow you? And I'm like, actually, I'll have you second. Like, your work looks good.
Yeah.
And
that's risky, but it works out.
It always works out. Yeah.
My sister-in-law is going to start shadowing me because she wants to get into wedding photography. Yeah, I think, like, literally in a couple weeks, she's coming to the first wedding with me.
That's cool. Yeah. I'm trying to convert my sister-in-law, too.
Yes.
Convert the sister-in-law.
Yes. How much fun would that be if they were, like, our second shooters?
I know. That's what I'm trying to do.
Yep, same.
But, again, it's not for everyone, so I don't want to force it on anybody. But, yeah. Wow. So, that was a long episode, but it's just fun to talk about the beginnings, and hope you guys found that maybe learn some new things.
Yeah.
Maybe feel better about your own businesses.
Right.
If, like,
you're like, oh, wow, these girls aren't crazy.
These girls don't got anything going on.
They're not. Yeah.
They don't. No one truly knows what they're doing.
No.
I still don't know what I'm doing.
Fake it till you make it.
Honestly, confidence is where it's at.
Yeah.
That's actually what I would say.
And authenticity.
If someone's like, I want to start, I want to say, okay, foundationally, you need to be a confident person. You need to know yourself, because I think something else that I realized that I'm thankful I did was I stayed consistent with my style and my approach from day one.
Yeah.
Like, obviously, my editing style has refined over the years, but I was never light and airy. Not that light and airy is bad, but for me personally, I was never that. I knew that wasn't me, and so I've never switched to that. And I think that's something that I'm thankful that I did from the beginning, was to stay consistent and just knew myself, because I think if you're trying to start a business that is so emotionally tied to what you do, knowing yourself is very important.
Oh yeah, and like I'd still go back to building that community, because you're gonna need them in the times when you're like crippling. Like, comparison will hit you.
Yeah, it will.
And you're going to need your community to talk sense into you when you feel like you should just give up as a photographer because you're not as good as so-and-so.
Yeah.
Because that's going to happen. It happens to me every other day.
So true. And just, like, self-doubt.
Where I'm like, I shouldn't be doing this. I think it also doesn't help when you are self-taught. When you're like, why am I even doing this? Who am I? Who am I to think I can take someone's wedding photos? That would happen to me a lot at the beginning.
I still sometimes think that.
Yep.
Like,
and then when you make a mistake, because we're human, then that's when it's really like, I should quit.
Really rough. So, if anything, I hope you feel seen in this, because we all still think the same things. Like, it's rough.
It is. That's what you were saying about being confident, and then having that community for those days where you're just down in the dumps and you need a community to pull you back out.
Yeah. Yeah. Be vulnerable.
Yeah.
Just be a person.
Just be... It's actually super easy. It's actually really hard, but it's actually super easy.
Be a person with a camera, period. That's how you start a business.
Take that camera everywhere.
It's actually so true. But, yeah. Anyways.
Thanks for joining us on our first coffee talk. Maybe caffeine is a bad idea because we just run our mouths.
Honestly, I'm feeling a little over-caffeinated. But this is actually how our coffee shop dates go, so I hope you enjoy it.
Yes.
It's long-winded. It's bunny trails all over the place. Welcome.
Yeah, glad you're here.
Next episode, we're going to be talking about our first episode of Hot Take. And our first topic...
We're not going to go too spicy off the bat.
No. But our first topic is going to be talking about how to take true candid photos and, like, what true candid photos are. Because candids... It's always been a buzzword, but especially recently.
Yeah, or people are like, don't use the word candid anymore. Use these words. It's almost like they're trying to push the word candid out.
Right. And so we're going to be talking all about our opinions on that, because we have opinions on that.
Oh, heck yeah, we do.
So definitely keep your eyes out for that, and we'll see you there.
Yeah, can't wait. Bye.